Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today my lecture for my MIT class is regarding the respiratory system. So far as we have discussed many systems like cardiovascular system, endocrinology, diabetes, then GIT, liver diseases, pancreas. Now we come to another system which is respiratory system, which is very important from examination point of view from your side. So listen carefully and read these topics from the books. Now respiratory system, as we know, is very important system, vital, because this provides the oxygenation for the us. Number one function which is very vital is the gas exchange system. Gas exchange means oxygen is taken in from the lungs into the blood streams, and carbon dioxide, which is wasted, goes out from the blood to the respiratory system, and that then is exhaled from the body. So top most important function is the gas exchange. Other important function is the metabolism function. In metabolism function, it has a two part, acid and base balance, because the carbon dioxide which goes out from the lungs, if it is retained in the body, it causes acidosis. So if it is excessive quantity of carbon dioxide is washed out, then it results in alkalosis, respiratory alkalosis, respiratory acidosis. So the one of the important function of the respiratory system is to maintain the acid and base balance. Other important part of the body which also maintain acid and base metabolism is the kidney. Kidney also keep the body pH in a normal way. Respiratory system and renal system are very important to maintain the pH of the blood. Other important function of the respiratory system is the fluid and electrolyte balance, because in the respiratory system the air contains the water vapors. When there is tachypnea or respiratory rate is increased, more air goes in and goes out. When air goes out, it takes water with it. So if the respiratory rate is increased, this leads to dehydration in a person. We have seen in our patients with the pneumonia or pulmonary embolism who have the increased respiratory rate, we usually give them supplemental fluids in the form of normal saline or ringer lactate. This purpose of this is that the patient's respiratory rate is increased, and this will lead to the dehydration in the patient. So we give the IV fluids to almost not every, but I am saying almost every other patients to IV fluids. Or if the patient can take the water, we ask him to take plenty of water because of their respiratory disease. As I have told you, that this can lead to the dehydration in a person. Especially this situation we face in the old persons. They rapidly deplete the water from the dehydration by way of increased respiratory rate or tachypnea. Okay, so important in summarize, we can say that function of the lungs respiratory system is divided into two important parts. One is the gas exchange part, by which the oxygen is taken in and carbon dioxide is taken out. Second part is the metabolism of the body. It keeps the acid and base metabolism of in the body and keep the pH in a normal way. And second part is the acid and base fluid and electrolyte balance. So these are very important functions of the lung. Now we comes to the basic anatomy and physiology of the lungs in a brief way. In detail you read all these things in the anatomy and physiology, but I will discuss with you only the important aspects which are related with the medicines. So airways are very important in a way that the in anatomy we divide this basically into two parts: upper respiratory system, upper respiratory tract, and lower respiratory tract. Upper respiratory tract starts from the nostrils, from the nasal cavity, then nasopharynx, oropharynx, and glottis. Up till this we call it as upper respiratory tract. The infections or diseases which related with these parts are called as upper respiratory tract diseases or upper respiratory tract infections. From the glottis downward, trachea divides into two parts, right and left main bronchus. Then bronchi are divided into small branches, bronchi and bronchioles, and ultimately this ends up to the alveoli. This whole part is lower respiratory tract. The diseases which are related with these parts are known as the lower respiratory tract diseases, and most common is the you see that bronchopneumonia, TB, they are all related with the lower respiratory tract. But these diseases can affect the upper respiratory tract, but I am just giving you an example: the upper respiratory tract and lower respiratory tract. Most of the part of the upper respiratory tract is dealt by the ENT professionals, ENT consultants. They deal with the most of the upper respiratory tract. For the lower respiratory tract, most of this is dealt with the pulmonologist. It is a domain of pulmonology. So we must know which field will deal what part of the respiratory tract. This is the basic anatomy, and this is from the upper respiratory tract, from the nostrils, nasal cavity, then is the nasopharynx, here is the oropharynx, and this is the trachea, and this is the glottis, epiglottis picture is shown, larynx, and from downward this is the lower respiratory tract, from here upward is the upper respiratory tract. From the trachea downward, right, left main bronchus, right lungs, left lungs, and this is the pleura. Pleura is a basically membrane which encircles the lungs, and these are the further divided bronchi or bronchioles, and ultimately ends at alveoli, from where the gas exchange mechanism occurs. These are the alveoli, these are the small respiratory bronchioles. This is the blood supply. This is divides into the alveoli, which are just like balloon-like pockets. This is the blood supply, and we see that this is the pulmonary artery, and it's in the pulmonary artery is coming with carbon dioxide blood. Okay, this is the further divided into the branches, capillaries, from where the carbon dioxide goes into the alveoli and then into the respiratory bronchioles, and it goes away to the main bronchus and ultimately is exhaled. Fresh oxygenated air comes in and it diffuses from the alveoli and goes into the capillaries, and it crosses the capillaries, and this is the pulmonary vein, and pulmonary vein basically takes the oxygenated blood to the heart. So this is the basic mechanism. Pulmonary artery basically brings carbon dioxide blood, and the pulmonary veins takes away oxygenated blood from the lungs, and it goes to the heart. This is basically the basic mechanism which operates in our body, and we can see that the gas exchange mechanism occurs. So this is whole the basic physiology of the and anatomy which is related with our domain of medicines. You must know these basic things. Now we see the airways. Airways basically are the bronchi. We know that these are the rounded pipe-like structures. They have the cartilage and smooth muscles on their wall. From the inner side there is epithelium, and epithelium contains the cilia, and goblet cells. Cilia basically pushes the secretions towards the main bronchi for excretion. Goblet cells, these are very important cells and protective mechanism. They secrete the mucus secretions, and there are also the submucosal secreting cells. They produce mucus, and this mucus keeps hydrated the inner of the bronchi, so that they are not dried by the air which comes from the nostrils. There are also other endocrine cells. We will read these things in detail when the disease comes. The APUD cells. Okay, these are the basic structure of the bronchi. The small bronchioles, respiratory bronchioles, they have no cartilage. They are only the muscular layer. Okay, while the bronchi have the cartilage. This is very important point from the radiological point of view. What picture it comes with the bronchi and what pictures come with the bronchioles. Moreover, they have the single layer of the ciliated cells, and they have the granulated Clara cells which produce surfactant like substances which keeps the moist inner side of the respiratory bronchioles and alveoli and prevents the collapse of the alveoli. They do not collapse while exhaling. Okay, otherwise if the surfactant is absent, then the small alveoli becomes collapsed. So this is very important function of the cells which produce a substance, surfactant like substance. These cells are the Clara cells. Now we come the last structure, which is the alveoli. Alveoli, there are 300 million alveoli, and their only function is to keep the gas exchange. They covered almost 70 square area, and they typically contain the two types of the cells: type 1 pneumocytes, which cover most of the area, and type 2 pneumocytes, which produce the surfactant. And I have told you the importance of the surfactants, because they keep moist inner of the alveoli and prevent collapse while we exhale. In inhalation, we take the air inside, and exhale we push our air out. If it's just like a balloon, then it will collapse. But nature has produced a substance which is known as surfactant substance, which do not allow the collapse of the small alveoli. So if they become collapsed, then it will become very difficult that they reopen. So because of the surfactants or substance, they are not collapsed while exhalation. So these are produced by the type 2 pneumocytes. This is very important function of these cells. So we can say that the nature has provided a protective mechanism. In the ARDS, if some person is drowned, this surfactant is absent, then the lungs become collapsed, and we call it as atelectasis occur. So this is the basic thing. We must know that this is very important for our respiration. Now the muscles of the respiration. Muscles of the respirations are very important in a way that they move our chest cavity in a buccal and handle mechanisms. Okay, the chest wall is moved with the help of the respiratory muscles. We divide the respiratory muscles into basically the two parts: diaphragm and intercostal muscles, and secondary muscles of respiration like the trapezius muscles, means sternocleidomastoid, and other accessory muscles, trapezius muscles. These are the strap muscles of the neck. They operated when there is some difficulty. Basically, we use the primary muscles of respiration in our life, and secondary muscles are used when we have the difficulty in respiration. Here is a picture. These are the muscles: trapezius, sternocleidomastoid. These are the secondary muscles of respiration. There are the intercostal muscles. They are primary, and from here downward is the diaphragm, which is also a primary muscles of respiration. Basically, we in a normal life when we are breathing, we used our only diaphragmatic muscles. When some breathing problem, especially in the running or climbing stairs, we start using our intercostal muscles. When we are running in a very fast, or if some person has the asthma or COPD like condition, he uses the accessory muscle of respiration like trapezius and sternocleidomastoid. So they are used in a stepwise when we have the breathing difficulty. So these are important muscles of the respiration, and we must know that these are very important. Each group has its own role, and role of the one thing is not ignored. Okay, these are the respiratory muscles, and they are very important, and importance I have told you, but in detail you can read this from the Your Anatomy book. Other is important is how these muscles are controlled, because we are breathing and we do not know that when we are breathing and when we are stop breathing, because the nature has set a mechanism, and the center of this mechanism is brain. Brain gives the inputs to these respiratory muscles, and we breathe. By breathing, air goes in and goes out, and nature has provided such a good mechanism that we do not know or when we are breathing and when we have stopped breathing. It's automatically adjusted. So respiratory center basically lies in the brain stem. They received the inputs from the receptors in the lungs and the airways, from the cardiovascular systems, from muscles and joints. We see that these parts are very important in our control, because lungs basically are the mechanism centers. They give the message what is the respiratory rate and how is there any difficulty in breathing. These are very important. And cardiovascular system, it sends the message that heart rate is increased, we need more oxygen, so increase the respiratory rate. Muscle and joints sends the message to brainstem that person is running, so we need more oxygen, so respiratory rate is increased. So these are the important areas from where the message goes to the brain stem. So okay, this is basically a center, and from there the message goes down to the respiratory muscles. And ventilatory center is in the cerebral cortex under the voluntary control, also under the voluntary control. This center is basically not under voluntary control, this is under the voluntary, because we can also increase our breathing rate, from which is message comes from the cerebral cortex to the brainstem, and respiratory rate is increased. So there are the mechanism that its rate is automatically controlled. The other mechanism is that we can also adjust our respiratory rate. This comes with especially in the person with anxiety. A person if is very anxious, his respiratory rate is increased. We know that lungs are not giving them message, cardiovascular system is not giving message, muscles and joints are not giving message, but the cerebral cortex, because of anxiety, gives the message to the respiratory center that increase the rate. So respiratory rate is increased. I am giving you one example of the cerebral cortex controlling of the brain stem. So this is a very important thing, that how this whole mechanism operates. Now we comes our topic of the diagnostic techniques. What investigations we usually perform for the diagnosis of the respiratory diseases. One thing was missing and I have added in this technique is, one is the chest radiograph, other is the CT scan of the chest, other is the radionuclide scan, bronchoscopy and pulmonary function test, PFTs. These are all basic tests which we perform, besides some routine investigations like complete blood examination, arterial blood gases analysis, which is known as ABGs. But these are the specific tests for the chest is the X-ray, CT scan, radionuclear scan, bronchoscopy and pulmonary function tests. Here is the picture of the lungs in an X-ray. You are seeing these are the X-ray chest PA view. We usually prefer the X-ray chest in a PA view. AP view is not acceptable because it does not give us the true picture. We usually advise X-ray chest PA view because in this we have the clear picture of the lungs, while in AP view we do not have the clear picture. Sometimes the heart size is increased, sometimes heart size is decreased. So X-ray chest PA view is the ideal way to see the lungs. This is the X-ray which I have added is the COVID, which is nowadays very common. We are being physician, we are every day we are dealing the COVID patients, and so I have added this picture for your information that while reading the pulmonary system you must know how the COVID patient's X-ray looks like. These are basically infiltrated lesions, these are rounded like, and they involve both the lungs, right lung and left lung. This comes under the category of atypical pneumonia. Basically, coronavirus is a virus which causes the pneumonia in the lungs and respiratory diseases. And respiratory disease, when becomes the ARDS, they become very horrible and patients' oxygenation becomes low, and these patients usually landed in our emergencies and they are in a very miserable situation. Miserable situation in the sense that we don't have the proper medications available for this virus. So we give the symptomatic treatment, and most of the treatment consists of the antibiotics. Basically, you also know that antibiotics only cover the bacterial infection, which is superadded infection, and there is no antiviral drug which is available up till now. Other part of treatment is the steroidal treatment, which basically are the anti-inflammatory. They reduce the inflammation of the lung tissue. Other part of the treatment is the giving the blood thinner, because with experience we have seen that COVID-19 patients, their clotting occur in the pulmonary circulation, and this causes the death of the patient. So we give the blood which cause the blood thinning of the patients. So the last part of the treatment is the oxygenation, because in pulmonary circulation less oxygen diffuses into from the alveoli because of the ARDS, and so we give extra oxygen, said that more and more oxygen goes from the lungs to the blood, because only the lungs tissue is nature has made only one tissue for the oxygenation, which is the lungs. If lungs is diseased, then oxygen cannot go to the blood. There is no mechanism, no transplant or no machine which is available to oxygenate the blood. Ventilator is basically machine which operates through the lungs. It does not replace the lung. So words are very important, means it does not replace the lungs. We have the dialysis machine which can replace the kidney function, but we do not have any device which can replace the lungs tissue. Ventilator only operates through the lungs tissue. Okay, this is very important. This is a picture of the bronchopneumonia. You are seeing the patient has the lobar pneumonia. One lobe of the lungs is right, basically this is the right lobe of the lungs, and this is involved, and they become radio opaque. If the air, then radiolucent. If the become black, if they become white, then it is a radio opaque shadow. I will show you the different pictures in different topics, how they look like, but this is a basic introductory lecture. I will just give you a highlights of the different conditions. This is the bronchopneumonia. Here is again atypical pneumonia, just like COVID infection. Patient has the right and left lungs involvement. This is the basically atypical pneumonia. Here is the aspiration pneumonia. Here the lower lobes of the lungs are basically involved in aspiration pneumonia. This is different from the previous lectures in a way that most of the involvement is the lower lobe of the lungs tissue. Here is the lower lobe. You see the for comparison of the normal X-ray, this is the lower lobe of the lungs. This is the CT scan of the chest, and you see the how the pictures looks like. This is the radionuclide scan, and we can see the how they look like. हेलो वालेकुम, मैं ज़रा लेक्चर रिकॉर्ड करवा रहा हूँ, मैं आपको करवाता हूँ। जी ज़रूर करवाएं, ठीक, जी जी मैं करवाएं, ज़रूर करवाएं, पूरा SOP फॉलो करें। ओके, दिस इज़ द radionuclide scan and we see the picture here. This is the fiber optic bronchoscope, and how the bronchoscopy comes. Basically bronchoscope has a light source at the tip, and we see the inside of the lungs. This is the bronchoscope, and this has the camera at the end. And just like the I have told you the gastroscope or colonoscope, which has a camera at the one end, here is the bronchoscope. We see the alveolar tree from the inside. If the patient has a tumor or some other tuberculosis, we can directly visualize. We can take the sample, which is known as the biopsy, and we can diagnose this with the help of histopathologically. So it's put from the mouth and it goes to the respiratory pathways in the trachea, and it goes down, and we can actually visualize how the respiratory tract looks like. If there is some growth, sometimes we see the growth here, sometimes here, or some other way. We have the forceps attached with this biopsy forceps attached with the bronchoscope, and we see the some abnormality and growth. We take a small piece of that area, which is known as the biopsy, or lungs biopsy is known as, and we then send this for histopathologically. And moreover, sometimes bronchial washing, BAL, bronchoalveolar lavage, which is known as BAL, bronchoalveolar lavage. We put the fluids into these bronchioles, and the fluids which takes the secretions from insides, and we culture these secretions for some bacterial infection, for tuberculosis, and we also do for the cells for the malignancies. So this is bronchoscopy is very important procedure by which we can investigate the patient from the inside of the lungs. Here is the picture. You are seeing the right and left main pathways from where we can go and examine with the help of bronchoscopy. This is how the camera sees from inside of the bronchial tree. This is all the introductory chapter of the pulmonary system, and we have moreover there is a test which is known as pulmonary function test. In pulmonary function test, we have the device by which the air we exhale the air through a pipe, and there is a screen by which shows the how the inspiration, what is the time of the inspiration, and what is the how much is we inspiration, and how much time taken by the expiration of the patient. The whole thing is recorded in a way that we can diagnose obstructive lung disease and restrictive lung diseases. Obstructive lung diseases, basically these are the asthma, COPD are known as the obstructive lung diseases, while restrictive lung diseases basically contains like the lungs fibrosis, sarcoidosis or malignancy. This is the example of the restrictive lung diseases. By the help of the pulmonary function test, sometimes the difficulty comes, a patient comes to us with a complaint that Dr. Sahab, I have the respiratory problem, or I become dyspneic while walking or exertion. Both the diseases, obstructive and restrictive, results in dyspnea or shortness of breath. So we have the difficulty whether it is asthmatic, and patient gives a history that which shows that he may have the restrictive lung diseases, like he may be worker in the cotton wool factory, which is an occupational hazard that small microparticles goes into our respiratory passage and they cause the fibrosis. This occupational disease is extrinsic allergic alveolitis. This causes basically the fibrosis of the patient. When such patients comes to us with have the difficulty, we ask the patient to go for the pulmonary function test. In a pulmonary function test, they exhale the air from the lungs, and air goes in, and then which is known as expiration, and then inspiration, and this whole thing shows on a screen, and by which we can diagnose whether it is an obstructive lung disease or restrictive lung disease. So this is very important test, but we further confirm these things by the HRCT, which is high resolution CT scan, by which the small slices taken with the help of a CT scan machine, and we can examine them whether there is some fibrosis of the lungs occurred or not. So these tests are very important, and some general tests which I have told you: CBC, complete blood examination with ESR, and ESR is basically high in the chronic diseases. The example of the chronic disease is the tuberculosis and autoimmune diseases, or some malignancy where the ESR is high, especially in the community like Pakistan. The most patients with ESR high, there is a high level of suspicion of pulmonary tuberculosis. Other test which is performed is the arterial blood gases, which is known as ABG's test. In arterial blood gases, we see the how much is the oxygen, whether it is high or low, how much is carbon dioxide, whether patient is have the type 1 respiratory failure or type 2 respiratory failure. In type 1 respiratory failure, patient has the low oxygenation and carbon dioxide is also low, while in type 2 respiratory failure, patient has the low oxygenation and also start retaining carbon dioxide in the blood, and it has high level of carbon dioxide level. As is known, first the patient has a type 1 respiratory failure, and then it goes to type 2 respiratory failure, and this can ultimately leads to the death of the patient. And at some stage we decide that when we go for the ventilatory supports. So these investigations, basic investigations, are very important. So this is my basic introductory lecture for the MIT students for the respiratory system. If you have any questions, you can send to me. Thank you very much.